Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community, especially Michael Osborne and James Barrett and Tony Turquato. Thank you. Yeah. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Present.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Smurl?
Here. Dispense with the reading of minutes.
Third order, 3A, Single Tax Office City Funds Distributed Comparison Report for year-to-date May 3rd, 2024, and year-to-year comparison report for May 2nd, 2023 to May 3rd, 2024. 3B, correspondence received from City Business Administration on May 8th, 2024 regarding updated payroll preparation tax collections as of April 30th, 2024.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have two quick ones. So Saturday, the 18th, from 12 to 5, there'll be a spaghetti and meatball dinner. This event will be at the Northeast Detachment Marine Corps League and Museum, 1340 Alder Street. And it's a 5-hour event. It's $12. And children under 12 will be $6. Beautiful place up there. I've been there. It's really nice. And then secondly, I have an announcement. Meet us on the mountain for our annual brunch. This is benefiting the Deutsch Institute, honoring Sean McHale. It's Sunday, May 19th, from 10 to 1 at the Waldorf Park Social Club. All proceeds will benefit the Robinson Park revitalization. The brunch is $30. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I have another one. The Northeast Pennsylvania Armed Forces Day Parade will be held on May 18th, 2024, downtown Scranton, beginning at 12 at the Gino Murley Veterans Center, located at 401 Penn Avenue. So that would be this Saturday.
Thank you.
That's all.
Anyone else? Right.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
First, Joan Hodowanis.
Scranton. First, I would like to ask if you would put that PFM document that you had during the caucus in third order for next week.
Yes, we will.
That's great that we're down to a 3.27 interest rate, so that's very good news. With regard to the union contracts, I heard Eileen Cipriani's comments about 26 years of documents that were never retyped into a document. That's fine and well. When you inherit someone else's mess, you understand that it's going to take time and effort to clean up the mess. What I have objected to all along was not getting any answers. So, Mr. Smurl, thank you for your assistance in getting some information on this. Nevertheless, you need to understand that police and fire constitute 62% of the city's employees, and personnel costs are the single largest item in the operational budget. So things like having a publicly disclosed collective bargaining agreement, they're important. They're important not only to taxpayers, they're important to the individuals who depend on them, namely the police and firefighters. By the way, I was trying to check something in the non-uniform clerical union collective bargaining agreement, and I went on the website, and guess what? The union contract on the website expired December 31st, 2023. I talked to Matt Dominus, and he says It's currently being negotiated. So of the 5 unions, the only 2 that are current are DPW and the single tax office. The clerical union, police and fire, they're in progress, works in progress, okay? Keep that in mind because, you know, you're going to turn around twice and you're going to start working on the budget for next year. And so you're going to need to know things like, you know, what do the union contracts call for in terms of salaries and wages and other benefits. And hopefully we'll have the clerical union contract wrapped up and publicly available by then. Spoke briefly with Tom before the meeting began. I understand he's not received any apology from the city from the way he was treated. That's a shame. Reflects badly on the administration. The other question is, has the administration identified the personnel whose records were put at risk? I understand that perhaps Tom and the policemen were the only 2 people who saw those documents, but we can't be sure of that. And the city has an obligation, a fiduciary responsibility to those people to identify them, contact them, and if it turns out that anyone other than Tom and the policeman had access to those records, you need to provide them some protective cover. And God forbid that they let that drop through the cracks. That could come back to bite them in their little heinies, and well, it should if that happens.
Joan, I was told our insurance carrier, they had contacted them, and they had given them a procedure to follow
Yeah,
through
they
for
better
that.
be doing
So
it.
I don't know if they have, but I will ask.
Yeah, I'm just saying, they had better be doing it. That's not something to drop. I am, though, going to compliment the city on one item, and that's item 5B on your agenda tonight. That's the Clean Up the Code ordinance. I read through that thing, and I laughed so hard I almost wet my pants. A lot of the stuff that dates back to the 1800s and 1906, I think it's a good thing that somebody took the time and effort to, you know, update all that nonsense and get it out of the code. The next thing that needs to be updated, the Home Rule Charter. Whole lot of stuff in that document that's obsolete or impractical. For example, remember your annual audit? That's due on May 31st, not September 30th. That's something that needs to be adjusted and changed. It's only one item in a number of items that need to be adopted. Oh, by the way, it was great, the mics you had for the caucus. We could hear everything you were saying. That was great. And I wish everybody a happy Armed Forces Day parade. I'll see you at high noon on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Lee Morgan?
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. On the charter, that's when ECTV locked me out of the station because I was talking about revising the charter and rewriting it. So, you know, I think the residents need to understand that we just have a terrible government, and we have a mayor that's bringing illegals here, and we have a council that has just refused to do its job for a very long time. But you know, I wanted to share with the city that I had a status conference today with District Justice Farrell with over the quality of life ordinance that the city, these corrupt public officials have created. And the city withdrew. But it's not really possible for the city to withdraw because this is an issue that's in the Court of Common Pleas, which is a step over the district court. The city had the ticket and decided, like the city's law department said to me, that they could do whatever they wanted with the ticket, even though it was on appeal in the Court of Common Pleas, because they could. And then when they found out that I named the 5 council members in my subpoena and the department heads, and I brought people in that could give testimony on the public corruption here because I was going to pierce your immunity and sue you each as individuals. And that's my hope in the future. I hope to get a hearing in either federal court or in a court where you can be held accountable for the legislation you've passed, because it offers the residents not one drop of protection when an inspector comes out and writes a ticket. And the city, well, they did withdraw. And I've got this in transcript, so I think the district justice is a little twisted up and bent. Because when I told her the actions that had taken place previously, she didn't know what to do. She needs to be removed because what she was trying to do was give cover to the city, just like District Justice Corbett did, and just like the District Justice in Dixon City did. What we've done in this city is we've created a very corrupt government that's been run by Democrats over an extended period of time. And they roughshod over the residents by bribing neighborhood groups with grant money and utter silliness as the city continues to lose its population. And then, of course, we have some city council members who say that they aren't corrupt. Well, I can't understand how a city can collect $1.6 million in a franchise fee and not have a public access channel. And then when you read the legislation that led to the creation of public access channels, they were to give the residents in these towns and cities a voice over the top of the politicians, that's you, in our communities. And when you look at the population decline from 140,000 people down to 75, and you have council members who take down water slides to get appointed to a public seat, in my opinion, it's just terrible. And then the council coming up with the money to do such and stealing that asset not just from the community, but from the children in the community. That's what's happened in this city, and it's gone on for a long time. And you know, to switch gears a little bit, you know, during World War II, there were such things as capos. They were Jews that were lighting people into the ovens and killing them during the Second World War in the concentration camps. Now, we've got a president of the United States who is withholding weapons from the Israelis, that are trying to free the Palestinians from terrorists. We've had a country that had its space violated and tons of its citizens murdered. You know, it's time to realize that this president that's in the White House is out of his mind, and world leaders are calling him out. I just wonder, will the people ever really realize what collective stupidity is? And if it's not time for a change in our country and leadership, there's time for a change in the leadership of this city, and it should happen in the next election. But I can't seem to get the Republicans to form a city committee and flush the toilet in this building, but I hope they do. Thank you.
Roger Leonard?
Good evening, Council. Roger Leonard, 23-year employee, City of Scranton DPW, President of Local 2305. I'm coming back here to have a conversation about the blight groundskeeper remediation bids that were supposed to go up at the DPW. I have a little information I want to share that I actually spoke to management, and we agreed upon, with one of the managers, we agreed upon the bid as it should be posted and that we could say yes to, so it went up to HR. And I want to ask you guys, I know that Councilman McAndrew, you asked City Hall to get back to the administration. Have they spoken anything about this?
Yes, I asked for the rationale for placing them in a different union. And the only response I got was, the clerical contract is currently in negotiations. My question wasn't regarding the clerical contract, obviously. So, Mr. Voldenberg, could you clarify and resend my question, the rationale? May they provide that to us, why they would put these groundskeeper positions in a clerical union versus a union that already does that type of work?
I will, Mr. McAndrew.
Thank you.
I just want to state here again that currently we do have groundskeepers in the Parks Department, and we do blighted properties in the city with the highway department. So it's a little different when they're combining them and trying to do what they had to do. So it was a little challenging to try to make a fit as far as how the job description had to go. So we did come to an agreement on that. We're hoping that it can go up soon. We know that the city needs these blight positions to get done. We know that there's blight all over the city, and we really want to get to it as soon as possible. So I'm hoping that's something that could be done. On another note, I do want to say regarding the clerical union, without the clerical union, the city cannot run. They are extremely important to the city. They are extremely important to us, their union brothers and sisters, and if I made light of anything that they do, that wasn't my intention. My intention was to show the difference of the work they do compared to us. It's kind of like telling a payroll clerk or somebody like that that they have to be able to lift 50 to 100 pounds repeatedly. It shouldn't be in their job descriptions. That shouldn't be part of clerical. So I just want to make that distinction that I'm not saying that clerical is less or more important than anybody else in the city. I'm just saying that they do completely different jobs. We do want to do these jobs. We care about the city. We live in the city. We want to see these places cleaned up. We want these positions, but I wanted to make sure that these bids were right and that there wasn't ways around to hurt our employees. So I'm hoping that this comes to an end. I'm hoping that these blight bids go up as soon as possible here and we can get out to clean the streets up. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Ron Elman?
Yes, hello, good people. First off, I'd like to thank Mr. Donahue and Mr. Flynn for their support against the higher, another increase in taxes. All right, next, I usually shy away from federal issues, but we cannot allow I'm trying not to use any hurtful conversation to get everybody mad at me, but we can't allow this moronic segment of our society fueled by all these radicals that are like George Soros Foundation and Bill Gates of all people supporting this chaos on the streets, the Rockefeller Foundation, and celebrities in Hollywood. These people are destroying our country. Whoever experienced what's going on now in this country, it's a disgrace to all the taxpayers and working people. Then we have these psychotic letters to the newspaper, one after another, in support of Hamas, and the Gazians support Hamas. Things are turned around. Now they're the victims. Even Hamas, people feel sorry for Hamas. It's a murderous group like that. That's what this world has come, that's what this country has come to with I guess, the younger segment in it. When I was in California, I hung around with some misfits, I'll tell you, my age. But never in my life have I seen and heard what's gone on the past 8 or 10 years. You know, the White House brought over thousands from Afghanistan. They're in a town, Dearborn, Michigan, part of Detroit, like where Dixon City is to Scranton. On television, those people are on the rooftops shouting, "Death to America." Death to Israel, death to Jews, burning our flag. That's the thanks they get for bringing them over here. And that town has a real high unemployment rate that taxpayers are paying for. I guess the president believes that trust in him and everything will be all right. And he'll carry us off to the moon, maybe, I don't know. And to change the subject a little bit, I was wondering if there's so many pets out there and so many people abandoning them because they can't care for them. Couldn't some of this grant money be spent with Johnson Tech on their veterinarian program? I once phoned them and they said no. That's why the kennels are being full and cats are on the street. It's because of the expense. I don't mean this as a braggart. My dog got the little French bulldog got an ear infection. It cost me $3,400 at the Old Forge Clinic. We took the collar off of him today. That was to save him. What if that animal belonged to one of these people that you see standing there asking for donations and all? It had died painfully. We had a baby kitten from the backyard. Rose brought it in, and it was $1,300 just a couple months ago. I can't afford this. I hadn't paid my house taxes yet. I'm just saying, can't some kind of program with all this money that's wasted, like the walkability deal and so forth, couldn't something be worked with Johnson Tech? Because I certainly support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hellman. Bev DeBarros.
It's good to be here among friends. I'm Bev DeBarros, a citizen of Scranton and also of the county, of course. And I have come in the past from time to time. I'm a volunteer at our county jail, and either ask for help or tell you how things are going there. As I often say, even though the jail is for the whole county, it's located within our city, right on the same street, Washington Avenue. And I feel, as a citizen, concern and responsibility for how things go there. So one issue that I would like to bring before you, in case anybody agrees with me, that they would maybe add their voice. Tomorrow is the prison board meeting at 12:30 on the 5th floor of the county office building. And you could speak there if you want to, or come and listen to what the other speakers have to say. There are a lot of issues. For instance, that we don't have GED there. The medical care, you'll hear speakers talk about that. A lot of issues. But the one I'm here today, for about this recreation for the inmates. And Center City Printing made this poster for me that, I don't know, to help, because it's hard to imagine what I'm going to say. This is an aerial view of our jail. Here's Washington Avenue, here's the old prison, and of course, these are the tops of the buildings. These 4 triangles is what I want to talk about. These, it's hard to tell from this but they're really on the ground floor. They are triangles made up of the sides of the buildings that are brought together in that configuration. About the size of your platform there, it would be one side of the triangle, and then the two other sides would come in. Now, it's hard to imagine that there are about 800 inmates in there who, for recreation, in the winter, they can go in the gym, not much to do in there, but we ask for yoga classes or something like that. But anyway, back to the outdoor recreation. Outdoor recreation consists of going into one of these 4 yards with the cement floor and these 3 sides of the building. I have, in February of the commissioners' meeting, the prison board meeting, I should say, I asked that we put benches in there so the people don't have to stand or sit on cement during their fresh air time. At the same time at that meeting, the administration asked for 2 like pull-up bars and like that, exercise equipment like that, one big piece in 2 of the yards. And that cost $5,000. And what I'm asking, I don't even think costs that, but in any case, it's the commissary fund that pays for it, not the county. That's the proceeds from what people buy in the commissary. So I'd ask for these benches to be made of recycled materials and have backs on them, so people could sit down, when they're there. Okay, so in 5 minutes, the exercise thing was passed, and when I asked for the benches, they said, oh, we'll talk about it next month. That was in February. Anna brought it up and brought it up. So now here we are in May, and I still think it's a worthy ask, and anybody that could support this, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Burrows. I did contact Mr. McAndrew, Sheriff McAndrew,
Mark.
And had asked him about that when you sent us the email, and they are aware of it. He said that would have to go through the board. They'd naturally have to research to make sure these benches and stuff were okay, to use that type of product. But they are aware of it, and he said that would be up to the board and the warden. But they are aware of it. He said they didn't forget about it.
I know they're aware of it, but I want the benches in there.
Okay. Well, I did what I can.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Rick Little?
Hi, I'm Rick Little from Scranton, and there's too much bureaucracy. It's too confusing, hard to figure out where to go to even start. That's why I'd like to, God bless the library system in Scranton and that goes across Pennsylvania. I'd be dead without the library since I moved here. There's a technological boom, and especially after COVID with the phones and everything, people after COVID, they want to keep it going on COVID and all these bureaucracies, and they depend on the phone. And I think it's sort of an abusive system. It's not equality that you expect everybody to keep up with the technology of the phone. And I see lawyers, doing mischief with it. I see every agency doing mischief with it. Because there's a lot of people that just want to keep COVID going. And today, this brochure at the library, Lead Safe Scranton. I mean, it was very curious to me, and I'm wondering if you know a difference between, it talks about lead poisoning and what you can do about it, but it seems to all be based on, calling some authority, like OSHA sort of authority to come in and find somebody, but we've known about lead paint since my childhood. It's the water that's bad, and you argue about, what changing water companies, and you got to buy the pipes from Scranton. You got to make everything local. That's how things will grow. And I'm wondering, I have a question for you. There's an Office of Community Development, and all three of these things are in this program. The Scranton City Planning Commission, and the Scranton Redevelopment Authority. Is this the same agency? These three agencies?
No, they're three different.
Well, they sound like they do the same thing.
Okay.
And it's really frustrating trying to, find these agencies, talk to these agencies, especially when they're all doing stuff through the phone and emails and stuff, and it's just not fair. And the biggest problem, the two main agencies, in my mind, is the SHA and the Housing Agency and the Health and Human Services Agency. And that is where most of the federal money comes into the area. But it doesn't go to the people in the area, I can tell you that. The media and justice are the two biggest problems. And I fully support what Lee Morgan was saying. There's not enough information out there, and there should be more, so people can get involved in the process, especially since Scranton has become a sanctuary city with people flying in from the Avoca Airport, and then Scranton, through Health and Human Services, somehow has to support them through the Catholic Charities or whatever. When I was a little kid, my father always, I built all the electronic stuff, and you'd have a circuit board, and you could look at the circuit board, and you see where it goes. And it was like a plan. It was like a constitution. It wasn't like an on-off switch to me. It was a radio. We built the radio. We built the hi-fi. We built the walkie-talkies, everything, since I could hold the soldering iron. And that was a great lesson. But you can't look at the circuit board of how this Scranton government goes to the county government, because there's all these agencies, you don't know what they do, and they have the courts involved. And the courts, there has to be a reset in the courts. People have to take notice of details and notice of the rulings that certain judges make. And that's why in this upcoming election, in the national election, the most important thing for Trump is not the vice president, it's the attorney general. Because what we're seeing across the board, from top to bottom, is this lawfare going on and using the courts and noticing the patterns and details and doing your own research, and by clearly filtered water, because that is the only filter that gets rid of the fluoride, arsenic, chlorine. And the stores they send you to through the government is Walmart, where all they have is charcoal filters, and that will make you sick. Thank you.
That's all for the sign-in slip. Anyone else wish to address council? Oh, I'm sorry, Laura Augustini.
Laura Augustini from Greenridge. I'm actually here because I'm disappointed. I was last here about a month ago with regards to an ordinance to turn Deacon Street into a two-way street, and we requested that there be additional stop signs put on Sanderson. I'm told, and I realized last week, that the resolution was passed without the additional stop signs, and I assume that it was because of the traffic study that was done or supposed to be done to accommodate those additional stop signs. All of you have my email, and if you don't, Mr. Voldenberg does, or you have the Greenridge Neighborhood Association email. I didn't receive any comment or any communication with regards to the request that we made. I watched the video of last week's council meeting, and there was no comment with regards to why you were voting yes to the resolution as it stood. Every single one of you said that you were in favor of the four-way stop. And I understand if the traffic study came back negative, but I would have appreciated some kind of a heads up. I'm emailing Mr. Voldenberg on a regular basis to find out what's happening on a couple of different items. I didn't get anything from him. I was told that it was going to be that the traffic study had come in and you were going to review it. Traffic study wasn't attached to anything. I didn't see anything where I could get it to find out what was going on. And I have a lot going on in my life, so being here every single week isn't something that's possible. And I didn't think that I needed to do that because you all know who I am. You know where I live. You know how to get in touch with me. But I guarantee you that at come election time, every single one of you will be in touch with the Greenridge Neighborhood Association. So can I ask, what happened?
The study came back, and the recommendation from the traffic study was to install no parking signs, okay? And it gave the places and the reasoning why. And then it also went on to say that if we weren't satisfied with whatever came out of that, if there were still problems, then the final solution would be four-way stop signs. We did not remove that. All we did was go on their recommendation, move the street forward instead of holding it up anymore. And then if we feel that we should go with the no parking signs, that would be the first approach.
The no parking signs where?
I would give you that.
Okay.
There's a lot of information on it where.
I believe the no parking was on Deacon next to Mickey Gannon's. And the recommendation was to not, they didn't recommend 4 stop signs. Otherwise, you know, we held it off to wait for the recommendation. And if they recommended 4 stop signs, I would have voted for the resolution with the 4 stop signs. They didn't recommend that. However, what they did say is that the resolution going through, they recommended just some no parking, you know, near the corners for safety, and that should, over time, over the next few weeks or months, if it's determined that there are issues that would result in maybe 4 stop signs would be required, that we could possibly revisit it. So that's kind of what we got. We had discussed it during caucus, and then that's probably why there was no comment, because it was discussed at the public comment or public caucus, and then we voted on it. I apologize for that.
Yeah, so a lot of the discussion happened prior to last week. That's why there was none last week. Mr. Voldenberg, could we get Mrs. Augustini a copy of the traffic study?
I asked for a copy of the actual traffic study, but what they did in this case is they sent it in an email format, and they copied in all the pertinent parties.
I can enlighten Ms. Augustini if you'd like as to what the recommendation was. I have the language in front.
Yeah, that would be great.
So Laura, like, I know you watched the meeting, but caucus wasn't taped. During caucus, I mean, I was in favor also of the 4 stop signs on the behalf of the residents that wanted them. We should listen to residents. So the traffic study came back, and what they pretty much said is, you know, that, and we, you know, of course, we like to follow the city engineers with the recommendations, but the reason why I voted, because the caveat being, if, and we talked about it in caucus, if this doesn't pan out for you guys, and I said, you'd be the first to tell us. So I'm taking the lead on that and following that lead, but with the idea that after this is completed, you come back to us and say, hey, Mark, we really do need the 4 signs, even though city engineering, you know, doesn't think so, but I thought this would just maybe eventually work itself out.
Right.
So that's a discussion we had.
We do not have to go back for another traffic study.
Just amend, yeah.
We just have to amend it. They did give permission at the very end that if we felt it necessary after the signs, then we could order the four-way stop signs put in. So that's the course we took.
Right. So how was I supposed to find that out if I didn't come here tonight?
Well, I don't, it's difficult. We don't, I just don't deal with one item each week. There are many items, and I apologize, I didn't, but, you know, there's a lot of things to do.
I understand that you have a lot of things on your
But my main goal was to move
plate.
forward so the street could be changed to a two-way. That sat tabled very long, so the
It was a
whole
month.
goal was to move it forward.
Yes.
Okay.
And my beef isn't with the resolution. My beef is with the fact that no one told me, and I wouldn't have known any of what was discussed unless I came here. And I work a full-time job. I'm president of a couple of different organizations. So coming to the caucus and coming to council every single week is just not possible for me. And I tried, and as I said, I watched the council meeting, but caucus isn't taped. So there was no way that I would have known that, except for me to come here. And that's what my beef is. And if there's a different way for me to find things out, if there's another avenue that I should take, then please enlighten me and let me know, because I'm all about communication. That's what I do. It's part of how I treat my employees. It's part of how I treat my family. It's all about two-way communication.
Okay, thank you.
And that's my issue. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident and taxpayer. You know, I read a lot of things on the county jail, and there's a lot of room for improvement. Those guys aren't allowed to have books, and it's just kind of ridiculous. I mean, if it's a serious crime, they deserve to be punished for it, and a lot of times there's so many crimes being committed that the county jail becomes a housing for more serious crimes. But there's a lot of things that are really disturbing, so maybe you should consider sending a letter over to the county commission and try and get some help for those people. I mean, you know, if they're just treated brutally when they get inside and fed lousy food and everything else, there's no, you know, they might come out with more of an attitude of revenge instead of rehabilitation. And okay, utility bills. Well, my transportation costs or delivery costs are equal once again to my on the gas. They're roughly equal, and I'm going to be studying it over the summer, but it looks like once again we've been had. I got a bunch of packages from the PUC, and I'm sorry, but when people get a 3 or 4 or 5% increase, they shouldn't be confronted with everybody raising their rates 20 and 30% over 1 year. That includes taxes. You know, I kept hearing years back of 5% a year with property tax. Well, you know, the average Social Security recipient might get 3%. And so added up over the years, and you have somebody losing their home to some landlord scooping it up for income property. And they don't do much with it. They just milk it and charge $1,200 a month. Okay, back on my last 3 weeks, raising alarm on pregnancy care. Now, the reason that these states, women in these states are being turned away is because of the fear. A lot of these laws state, okay, if it's a miscarriage or something to do with the mother's health, it's proper to perform a final abortion. It's not going to survive anyway, the baby. And what happens is they're afraid of some zealot DA twisting things around into, oh, well, this was a convenience abortion. They just said this. And they have to go out and sit in their car with the windows up and mimic growing a fever and sepsis, or go through all types of things, and sometimes they even wind up in critical medical care because they were left so long. And it's a classic combination of 501c3s and C4s. They are tax exempt. They could do wonderful things. I mean, a hospital might be a 501c3, or, you know, a ministry that hands out a food bank, things like that. And they're all good things, but some of them are just more obsessed with ruling over people and lording over people and telling them how to live. Now, when they kicked Planned Parenthood out of Scranton, I mean, there is not anything that Planned Parenthood was passing out that was an abort efficient. And that's all there is to it. You know, so they're bearing false witness against their neighbor. And also, we don't need 501c3s and C4s deciding how much taxes we have to dump into a few blocks in downtown. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Attorney Gilbride, did you say you were going to prepare an answer for Laura Agostini from the Greenridge Neighborhood Association on the information we received on the study?
I was prepared to read it to her, but she left the meeting early, so.
Prepare a letter and have Mr. Voldenberg forward it to them. Thank you. Anyone else?
Virgil Argenta. Good evening, Council. This week is National Police Week. God bless and protect our police officer heroes for protecting us from what we fear. Today I received a call from a close friend about a tag on an elderly family member's property. We're all familiar with the flooding of September 2023 in Kaiser Valley, the loss and devastation some residents are still experiencing. Their homes were destroyed and properties were condemned. Some lost everything. Just when you think it can't get any worse, today at 10:55 comes Code Enforcement Inspector number 14 with the bright lime green tags posting several condemned properties in the 100 and 200 of South Merrifield Avenue, giving them 3 days to address high grass, weeds, and plant growth. Can we agree there are more worse properties in the city that Code Enforcement could have been tagging? When leaving a tag on a condemned property that's uninhabitable to live in, who do you think would be complying? This tag was noticed due to a relative driving by. Will these Scranton residents ever get any relief or help from the city of Scranton? To add insult to injury, after talking with one neighbor who has an affected property, he says he has been trying for 4 weeks, calling and leaving messages for a person named Morgan, last initial F, looking for help, guidance, and a return call. Morgan just so happens to be the point person for the city in regards to purchasing these properties. Residents who must wait 4 weeks and not have a phone call returned is unacceptable from city government. You council members allow it to happen to you on a weekly basis from this administration? That does not mean city residents should have to accept that treatment. We pay taxes and we deserve better. Another issue is regarding the entry-level examination for police officers, patrolmen for the Scranton Police Department. Over the last year, the city of Scranton switched from LEAB, which is the law enforcement aptitude battery testing that most police departments in the country, including Pennsylvania, use, to a third-party national testing network, NTN, which is out of the state of Washington. Does anybody know if there was a reason for the change of testing that we are aware of? Was that testing put out for bid? Has the amount of test takers increased since the new testing was in place? Can we get an accounting of failed and passed candidates since the change in testing? Has the city made more test fees from the LEAB, which is Law Enforcement Aptitude Battery, versus NTN, which is the National Testing Network? Is there a difference in applicants taking tests from LEAB versus NTN? The new test is open for 2 months. Anyone who fails this test cannot retake this test. The cycle due to the test is only given for 2 months, and you can take the test after 2 months. The applicant must wait until another test is given, and God knows when that test is going to be given. So my question is, are we better with the NTN, National Testing Network, than we were with the LEAB, Law Enforcement Aptitude Battery Test, that is used by the Pennsylvania State Police? Any info on this matter would be greatly appreciated. And one other thing, while I have a few minutes, school is almost out. Is there any development on the curfew law? And is anybody working on that? And do we find that as an important tool to keep the youth off the street? Thank you, Council.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Mr. Voldenberg, could we reach out to the administration and see if there's been an increase in applicants or officers that are ready for duty that are coming out of that test, if we can get a comparison possibly with the LEAB compared to the NTN?
I made note of all Mr. Agena's questions, and I'll ask them tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ready for me?
Yes.
Good evening, Council. Mike Mancini, Scranton. Are you ready? Tonight we're going to talk about quite a few things that have gone through Council here. 57 applicants that have lost their jobs for whatever reason. Most of these people were from out of town, right? Now, 2 of you on Council have been against out-of-town hires, right? Now, here we are again with the administration looking for help, right? Where is the help? It comes from out of town. We're talking about a city engineer from out of town talking about a 4-way stop sign for an intersection that he probably never even traveled through. And where is the common understanding of making a good decision when you're out of town? Our city administrator is from out of town. Our DPW director, so-called DPW director, if you want to call it that, is out of town. When you have out-of-town people making out-of-town decisions, you have out-of-town problems. To turn central Scranton, downtown Scranton into 4-way stop signs might work somewhere else, but it's not going to work here. What else isn't going to work here is the corruption. I'm sick of the corruption. I've asked about the sale of the sewer authority for months. Part of those documents included a 2% increase per year for 10 years with the water mitigation. But yet it's much higher than that. So I took it upon myself to file a complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB. I also filed one on behalf of all of the employees from the 5 unions from the city of Scranton regarding the breach of documents, personal, private, privileged information. I'm done with the corruption. I'm done with the disrespect. I'm done with the nonsense. I'm done with the chain out front, deterring people from not coming into this building. There was 140,000 people in the city of Scranton. We never had doors to stop them. We never had a phone to pick and choose who the mayor and her stuck on stupid administration wants to talk to. I'm done with a box for the right to knows where it says you don't have enough time to work on it. Sick of it. You know, we're going to do better. We have to do better because, you know, when the mayor simply ignores the things that are very important to us, like our roads, like our safety, it's gone beyond good taste and reason both. It's not going to be tolerated. You know what else? This is something very near and dear to me. Hometown heroes. My son is one of them. Did you know that in Greenridge, they're not going to have their hometown heroes up in time for Memorial Day? How about that? How about the flags that are flying all across Main Avenue, well, or the lack of them, or whatever's left of them, torn, tattered, in the middle of the streets? It's disgusting. You know, these cars that we have for these city inspectors, God forbid if one of them hits a pothole. We have one of the most fragile city inspectors, Mike Gawarty. Imagine if he chipped a tooth. How long is he going to be out on disability? My God, this is horrible. You know, I had to talk about the Christmas lights until Wednesday before St. Patrick's Day for them to be taken down. Oh, and by the way, for the sewer authority, here's what I did. I filed a complaint with the state Supreme Court Disciplinary Board. The law department, anybody that has a law degree, and everybody that got paid. I'm done with the corruption. Sick of it. We're going to do better. The city's going to be better, and we're going to give this city back to the people of Scranton where it belongs. Find somewhere else because you don't belong here. Good evening, City Council.
Mr. Mancini, please don't strike the podium. Thank you. Anyone else?
Frustration. Jeez.
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. King, do you have any motions or comments?
Just a few comments. Mr. Voldenberg, can we send code enforcement to 632, 634 Harrison Avenue? I know they were there on May 6th, but we just received an email from a resident with concerns there with high grass and, as mentioned earlier, feral cats. We could get that checked out. Also, a citizen reached out to me concerning Crawley Park in Greenridge. Speeders, possibly running red stop signs, and some possible drug activity over in the early evening at Crawley Park. If we could have the police look into that, or if the police can kind of maybe plant a car around the corner near that final stop sign before you get to Crawley Park. Sounds like some people are flying through that.
I will, Mr.
Very
King.
dangerous in that neighborhood. Also, the benches at the prison. I know the one concern. I don't know much about the benches at the prison. This is the first I was hearing about it. The only thing that I would hope is that the benches would actually be mounted, like not loose benches, because I could see where that could be an issue. But other than that, if they were properly mounted, I don't see why we wouldn't want to see that happen. So, and finally, some people reached out over on the East Mountain Facebook page concerning the trees that have been eliminated. Some of the trees have been eliminated at Robinson Park as part of that upgrade. When we had the opportunity to meet, I know the president and vice president of the East Mountain Residents Association were there. I was there, and several other residents, to hear from Tom McLean, and they showed the plans for all the work that's being done. If you recall, last week we approved Shalusky the ones that just did Oakmont Park, they started their work on Robinson Park. And some trees did in fact come down as part of that. And it was indicated at the meeting that was going to happen. I believe that they worked through Tony Santoli, the tree inspector, and I believe that was all approved through our Tony Santoli. But I think once that park is completed, people are going to be very pleased with the results. Granted, a few trees that have to be removed as a result of it, but I think you're going to see a beautiful park once it's all completed. And believe me, there's going to be plenty of trees on that property, and beautiful trails, and new playground equipment for children, a new basketball court, all paved, and there's even going to be a handicap ramp that'll go out into Mountain Lake, so that the handicap can go out onto a little dock. So I'm expecting that project to progress pretty quickly this summer. And that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I have a few. Mr. Voldenberg, we got an email about a crushed culvert at Jackson Street in South Sherman. If we could send that over to who's responsible for that. I know that some of that area is going to be paved, so it might be part of that, but in that email, there was some concern about the spring rains and flooding in that area, being that the water comes down into there.
I'll take care of it, sir.
Thank you. Also, I got a call about 915 Euclid Avenue. If we could have code enforcement go out and check on the property. Seems to be abandoned at this point in time. I don't know who the owner is, but the fences are falling, the grass is high. There's a lot of issues going on there that we could check out.
I will, sir.
Thank you. I got a call earlier today about Dorothy Street. There was about a 1-foot hole that was near some of the new basins that went in there, but I think we got a call prior to the meeting that said that it looked like...
We did this afternoon. That hole's been filled.
All right, thank you. Just making sure on that. Did you get any information on 317 North Sumner Avenue, the restoration work that was there? Wasn't sure if it was gas or water, but...
I reached out, and this Pennsylvania Water Company sewer division said it's a water issue, and they forwarded it to them, and they have yet to advise.
All right, thank you very much.
But the pave cut is a water.
Thank you. I got some answers from last week or the week before's questions. I asked some questions regarding ARPA department budget transfers. There were several budget transfers, one being transferring money from the Pittston Avenue streetscape project over to Wyoming and Cedar. So the answer I got was that additional funding will be added to both the Cedar Avenue and Wyoming Avenue streetscape project, which are currently in the design phase. So that's the money coming from Pittston over to Cedar and Wyoming. The Pittston Avenue funding was allocated as matching funds for a grant that the city wasn't awarded. So they were matching funds. Engineering design on Pittston Avenue has not started, and therefore the project cannot be obligated prior to the ARPA deadline. So the Pittston Avenue streetscape project won't be able to make it in time for the ARPA deadline. I asked if they were going to abandon the Pittston project altogether, and they said they're going to continue to apply for grant funding to complete the Pittston Avenue project. And the other question I had regarding the ARPA budget transfers was that they were transferring $49,000 of funds for the Kaiser Valley flood and North Scranton flooding, and they were transferring that funding to City Hall improvements. So I asked for an explanation on why we were switching that over. The answer I got was the Kaiser Valley grant match is being funded through city grant matches. The ARPA dollars are being repurposed to fund repairs for council clerk and the county controller offices. So with that question, I had asked why the funds were being transferred, and this was what was occurring with those funds. So if we could just ask them why the funds were being transferred, I don't know why we'd be taking money away from the areas that were affected by flooding.
I'll ask that question.
Thank you very much. I also asked for comparisons for the pave cut receivables for 2021 to 2024. I did get them today. Happy to get them today. Today is the 14th. When I put that in for a right to know, the 15th was the deadline that I received. So I received it a day before my deadline, so I'll go through those documents and see what I find. That's all for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
I do. I have a few things here. First, last week I had asked about if the administration could consider hiring a company like Iron Mountain to be able to collect shredding material through the city. And I know that we did receive information on their new process, but that wasn't included. But we did get a separate response on it that said the city has and does use vendors such as Iron Mountain for shredding larger quantities of materials. The city can investigate vendors for routine paper shredding, but in the meantime, staff will shred office papers daily. So that's what we received so far, but I'll look forward to their response after they've investigated into using Iron Mountain for other shredding and what those costs might be. Also, I received a complaint regarding a property on Prescott Avenue, the old Prescott Bingo Hall, and I think that it had recently been sold and they're renovating the property. There's been some work they're doing on it, but the complaint was that the building was unsecured and there were open doors they had noticed. So if we could have perhaps code enforcement or even SPD to visit the property and make sure that it's secured and there's
I will, Dr. Rothchild.
no issues there. Thank you. Also received a complaint that I just forwarded to Mr. Voldenberg regarding a sewage issue with, it's East Market Street, but the complaint I received was from the City Lights Church, which is on Main Avenue there in North Scranton. And there's some debate about the issue and who's going to pay for it, if it's American Water or the city, but they had some sewage that was going out into the street, and they were initially told it was from them, then it was, and they had both American Water out there and the city, but they're still waiting on hearing back regarding the issue, because I think there's a problem with their pipe on their end that they were saying the city might pay for. So I just want clarity on that. I'm assuming it was DPW that they spoke to. If you could contact them about the issue.
I will. I'll clarify that for you.
Okay, thank you. And received an update earlier today on Monroe Avenue. Mr. Raines, who's come in here before with regards to his street and the work that American Water is supposed to do on it. We were told that they're going to be starting work in early June and that there should be the paving completed by September. So that's the timeline we've been given so far on that. Also, we received an updated demolition list from the city, and I know I'd been asking about one of the properties, 1047 Cottage Avenue, is included on that list, but we still didn't receive a timeline on the demolition of that property. So if we could inquire again about if there's a date set for that one, because this is supposed to be the spring list and we're getting closer to summer. So
I'll get that date, Doctor.
thank you. And last month I'd asked about 714 Marion Street. The resident was requesting a no parking sign to be issued there. I guess they're having issues with people parking in front of their driveway, but I don't think I'd received a response from DPW about whether or not they're going to place the sign there if it's been completed.
No response from the police department or DPW.
Okay,
I'll follow
we could
up.
check in again about that, please. And just want to respond to Ms. Augustini about the Deacon Street legislation that we passed last week. I think we probably could have done a better job of relaying what we had discussed in caucus during our vote. So I do apologize for that. I think I'll make sure better in the future to remember that everything that we're talking about in caucus isn't televised, so we need to relay that too when it comes to our votes on the legislation and make it clear as to why we're voting on that piece. But I was in agreement with my colleagues. I felt like we were all on the same page about the legislation, that we were okay with it being a two-way street, but the recommendations were not there for it to be a four-way stop at that one intersection. And one other thing that I just wanted to bring up, last week on Friday, I had the privilege to go to Isaac Tripp Elementary School, where I was able to read to a first grade classroom. It was part of the Keystone Classroom initiatives from the 250 PA organization. So that was the organization that was created by Governor Wolf for the upcoming 250th anniversary of our country. And the Keystone Classroom initiatives is making sure that that there's students throughout the state that are being read to, and the book was K for Keystone, which was just a really neat way to be able to discuss all that we have to offer in our state in Pennsylvania with first grade children, and it was really fun to see their excitement as we were reading the book and hearing about things that that they know that we have in Scranton and why they love Pennsylvania. So just wanted to mention that was something cool that I was able to do last week. And that's everything that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
Excuse me, I have a couple. So I also want to apologize to Mrs. Augustini and promise to be more cognizant with regards to communication. I thought maybe she saw it and figured our way through it, watching our meeting, but not all of our caucuses are televised. I would also like to recognize and pay homage to National Police Week for the brave men and women that gave it their all in their communities. And I'd also like to thank our brave men and women in blue of the Scranton Police Department. So I have a couple other things blight related. So a 409 Fig Street, it's an empty lot, hedges and grass. It's getting heavily overgrown. Mr. Voldenberg, if you can put that on the radar for code enforcement.
I will, sir.
Also, a resident came up to me, and I know, and she realized, I know there's being work done on Washburn Street by the water company, but she lives near the corner of Washburn and High Park. She says there's two storm drains within the block there, one near her house. She wanted to know if it's the responsibility of the water company, and are they going to take care of it while they're doing this work, or is it a city drain? And I'm quite honest with you, I didn't know, so I said I would look into that for her, if you can please relay
I'll find that out, sir.
I'd like to also revisit, so I brought this up a couple months ago. It's on Archibald and South 5th. If you're driving down Landis and you turn onto Archibald and 5th, you can turn left or right. Right, you would turn where the school buses are. Left, you turn towards Cloverfield. The issue that was there months ago was there's a truck with a trailer on the left and there's a truck with a trailer on the right blocking view. So I know that I think Highways went out and said, it's not that bad. One of the trucks and the trailer moved, but the one that remains, I think it's closer now to the stop sign. It's on the right, and literally I've got maybe 5 complaints since the first one months ago where you have to edge out. And what comes out of there are, for the most part, school buses. So I believe it's it's a safety issue that needs to be looked at again or revisited.
I'll have them revisit it.
Thank you. And then, what else do I have? I have one more thing. So, one of the biggest issues that we face all the time on Main Avenue in Scranton is that bridge going towards North Scranton. Trucks get stuck under it constantly. I've talked to people since I'm here 4+ years in almost every department, and they say, well, we increased some signage, and I'm like, it's 2024. There's got to be some type of app or something, or GPS that would navigate these trucks away from them, but apparently there's not. But like I always say, some of our residents have the best ideas. And I spoke with this lady. I said, put everything in writing, send it to me. And it's a great idea. So, and it makes sense. So when you're coming up Lackawanna Avenue, the major road leading to North Main Avenue, there is no signage regarding the bridge when you're coming up it. But as soon as you make the right towards the bridge, there's a little sign there near Rite Aid, but it's obscured. So the truck already made the right. So then they're stuck, right? If a truck does not turn right there to avoid the bridge, I'm not sure they can even make it that turn, so they continue. There are several signs after that warning of the bridge height, but now there's nowhere to go. They're stuck. They do turn up Orem sometimes, but Orem leads into the cemetery. Maybe they're thinking, or their GPS says you can get to Kaiser, or wherever they're going, so they arrive at, at the bridge. Or they turn onto Euclid, drive 1.5 miles through the development, then turn left on Clearview, and now they cannot go anywhere but backward. It takes a long time for 16-wheelers to back up onto Euclid. So, and this lady's experiences this most of her life, so she sees this and witnesses. And then, having to drive then onto Court Street, it's an issue. There are no truck signs at the entrance of Euclid from Main Avenue. However, there is one on the left side of the entrance to Euclid. If you're coming down the hill and make a left, you tend to look to your right. The city could put some better signs regarding the bridge at the top of Lackawanna, and this makes a lot of sense, indicating the height of the bridge, that there is no other access that might help. Also, if they could move no truck signs to the right side of the street to the entrance of Euclid, it would be more noticeable. As for now, no one's looking into the no truck sign on the left. So I'm going to forward this. I know I read a lot, but I think it's a fantastic idea. Put the sign at the top of Lackawanna before they turn and see the sign and it's too late. So I will forward you all this information, Mr. Voldenberg, if you could please send it over to Highway and so they can take a look at it.
I will. Thank you, Mr. McCann.
These are great points. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. Last week I had asked that Colfax Avenue and Olive Street, and also Colfax Avenue and East Gibson Street, that the handicap curbs be cut into that area, and asked if it could be rolled into the project going on Cedar Avenue. Unfortunately, that project is funded with ARPA money, and it could not be. So we did send it to the city engineer for review, and we are looking for an alternate way to fund this. But I believe it is going to be done. Also, the Wheeler Avenue and Olive Street, the basins that have been problems there for years that have been flooding. The water company has been requested to clear them, and they are reviewing them. So hopefully they will straighten them out. The South Scranton Neighborhood Association meeting is tomorrow evening. It's at 509 Cedar Avenue. And one last thing I have, it being National Police Week, I'm just going to read this. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation which designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which of that date falls as Police Week. The City of Scranton City Council wishes to honor and pay tribute to those who gave their lives in the line of duty, especially the 11 officers of the City of Scranton who gave their lives in the line of duty. And they were Patrolman John James Wilding, Patrolman William W. Harmer, Captain Albert Gleason, Patrolman Thomas O'Malley, Detective Lieutenant Lewis Roberts, Patrolman Alvin Earl Brandt, Patrolman John Loftus, Patrolman Lewis William James, Patrolman Charles Berry, Patrol Wagon Driver George D. Kent, and Patrolman Ellis John Ellis. That is all I have, Mr. King.
5B for introduction, an ordinance, the Clean Up the Code Ordinance of 2024, removing outdated provisions of Scranton City Code, including the repeal or amendment of provisions regarding birth certificates, Defense Council, Library Deed, Golf Commission, gas piping standards, CETA bonding, Air Pollution Control Officer, City Code availability, beasts of burden, Housing Supervisor lead-based paint manager, private pool inspections, immunization travel cards, micro enterprise revolving loan program fees, plumbing code, construction code, contracting procedures, electrical code, and coal mining.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I appreciate the work the city did to work through the code and to clean it up, because there were definitely, as the Soto on it's pointed out, some very ancient and old unnecessary things included in there, like the Defense Council repealing a requirement that Scranton have a local defense council. This provision comes from World War II, and no such defense council has existed in recent memory. So things like that that we were able to resolve by going through this. So, of course, I'm in favor. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? I spoke with Councilman Schuster before about this, and we were happy it's going through our attorney before we actually get this. So I hope we continue to go that route if we continue to alter this. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Evie Rafalco McNulty as a member of the Scranton Public Library Authority for a 4-year term to expire on July 30th, 2028.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Norma Jeffries as a member of the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority for a 5-year term to expire on June 17th, 2029.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Norma Jeffries as a member of the Shade Tree Commission for a 5-year term to expire on October 11th, 2029.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5F for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Sarah Cruz as a member of the Scranton Housing Authority Board of Commissioners to fill the unexpired term of Krista Murray beginning June 1st, 2024, and expiring on September 27th, 2027.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5G for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Joseph J. Murphy as a member of the Scranton City Planning Commission for a 4-year term to expire on December 31st, 2027.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5H for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Michael Cummings as a member of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority Board for a 5-year term to expire on October 1st, 2029.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5H be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6th order, no business at this time. 7th order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, Resolution Number 37, 2024, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Koharchik Construction, Inc. to perform the traffic signal replacement project at 3 locations within the city of Scranton for a project total of $873,831.90.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question,
On the question, I'm very happy to see these, this bid out and these traffic signals start their replacement.
roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, Resolution Number 38, 2024, ratifying and approving the Intergovernmental Agreement of Cooperation and Memorandum of Understanding between Lackawanna County and the City of Scranton regarding coordination on certain public safety technology systems.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, Resolution Number 39, 2024, amending Resolution Number 268 of 2023, a resolution entitled, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Barry Isett and Associates to perform a 3-year engineering service for an infrastructure project to include amendments to the contract.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, last week I had a couple concerns with this. I know, Mr. Gilbride, I think you were talking to administration about it. Did we get any answers to those questions?
Just what I previously provided to you. That it was addition of additional streets based upon the proximity to the ongoing.
Yeah, so what we talked about in caucus.
And it would have been cost prohibitive to actually go out again. It would have cost more if they had done that.
All right,
Since
thanks.
it's a professional contract, they don't need to.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
8th order, no business at this time.
Mr. Smurl, I have a,
Yes.
before you close, I've forgotten 5th order, if I could bring this up
Absolutely.
real quick. Could you reach out to the Parks Department and check out the basketball hoops at the skate park on Jackson Street? I guess there's a broken rim and the kids can't use it.
I will, Mr. McAndrew.
Thank you very much.
While we're talking about that property, did we find out who the owner of that property was from last week?
The skate park and the building are owned by the city of Scranton.
Okay, thank you.
And let me know if I need to check further, if there's any further questions on that.
That was all.
If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned.